Back, Ron's Radio Corner. I'm taking a bit of a deeper look at the CCRadio Solar. Just picked this up a few days ago. Had a little bit of time to kind of play around with it. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm a bit conflicted on it. It's a very good radio. And it's a premium radio that right now is selling for about $89 on the CCRadio website. There are definitely lots of things to like about this radio. The pros, it's a very good sounding radio, especially for the size. It has two audio power modes, a low audio power and high audio power. In the low audio power mode, I would say it sounds very considerable. It sounds very similar to the CC Solar Observer that's behind it, which is a really nice, enjoyable, playable radio. If you put it in the high audio power mode, the sound kicks up a bit. It definitely sounds a bit richer, a bit fuller. Actually, I would say very close to the Prunus J160 that I have alongside it. It's digital. It's really nice to be able to turn this radio on and lock into a station and know what station you're locked on. It does, and I don't have it on, but you can just toggle up in different steps, or if you hold the button, it'll scan to the next strongest station. That's a really nice feature. It's it's got a built-in clock, and it's an alarm clock. Not necessarily essentials, but they're nice features they have, and I think it helps its versatility depending on how you want to use this radio. It does weather alerts, so not only does it have weather band, but you can set it to alert you when a weather alert comes in, which the CC Solar Observer does not do. So that's a nice feature. It can be powered on regular batteries. To me, that's essential. I'm not saying I wouldn't buy a radio that couldn't do that, because I think I actually have a few radios that run on a rechargeable battery, but I really feel it's a must for a really serious emergency radio. You really do need the ability to throw in some batteries, either because you have a fresh package of batteries that you keep in the drawer, or even if you had to go scrounge through all the remotes in the house to find some batteries to power this thing. If you're really in an emergency situation, that ability to power it off of regular batteries, I think, is a huge plus, particularly because as these radios age, the internal batteries at some point will need to be replaced. And yeah, if you replace it, you're fine. But if you realize it needs to be replaced when you need the radio most, being able to use regular batteries is just a huge, huge plus. The CC Solar Observer in the back also can work on 3 AA's. It also has, both radios have replaceable internal batteries. So that's huge pluses. It has an auxiliary input. That is a nice thing. I feel, though, there's some shortcomings around that, which I'll probably get into a little bit later. But the nice thing with the auxiliary input here is if you have another device, probably maybe an MP3 player, and you plug it in through the auxiliary input, it automatically puts the radio into the high audio power mode, so you get that best sound. It's got lots of customizable options, so it really is a radio that you can sort of tweak to how you want to use it. You can have it display the clock or the frequency when the radio is playing, so that's nice. If you want to have the frequency on, great. If you'd rather see the clock, then awesome. You can adjust the tuning steps, so maybe go up by 1, which is really nice if you're just trying to fine tune a channel, or set it so you're able to kind of go through the band a little quicker. AM filters, which I haven't played around with, but the owner's manual kind of talks about how those different filters can be tweaked, either with one that would be better for radio, for music, the other that would be better maybe for talk. It can go about 50 hours, on a set of fresh batteries. If you keep it low power mode, 35 hours. If you put it on high power mode, I think that's pretty impressive. I'm not sure what the runtime of the CC Solar Observer is, but but I think it's pretty darn good. I'm kind of curious what the difference is there, and I just didn't look it up to see if I could figure that out. The cons, right? The things I would kind of knock against this radio. The first is it's expensive. I mean, right now it's selling for $89, and it's normally $99. That's an expensive radio. And in that, you're talking about you paying a premium for this radio, and yes, there's a whole bunch of things to like about it, but it's still using micro USB. It doesn't use USB-C, which, considering how long USB-C has been around and how long it has sort of been the standard, I'm a little surprised that this is still using micro USB. It doesn't support Bluetooth, and that might sound nitpicky, and maybe you're thinking I don't need Bluetooth for an emergency radio, but the problem is you can buy less expensive radios, less expensive emergency radios that offer Bluetooth. So when you're buying sort of the Cadillac of emergency radios, this premium product, the fact that it doesn't have it, in my mind, is a con. Now, they have just come out with a CCRadio Solar, which I don't even know if it's out for sale yet, but it is on their website, that does have Bluetooth. That is showing at $99, which means I don't know if this one is going to be available and the price knocked down, or if this is going to be discontinued in favor of the Bluetooth model. But so as much as I say it's a knock, if you were to buy one, I would say maybe a month or so from now, brand new, you'd have that option. There's no USB drive support, or a micro SD card or anything like that. Again, other radios that are less expensive offer that. The fact that this doesn't, and it's at that premium point, kind of bugs me. It doesn't have shortwave. Considering the price point, should it? There are other emergency radios less expensive that offer it. Again, I don't know if I think it's essential for an emergency radio, but I think a lot of people do think shortwave is essential for an emergency radio. And if you're going to build the premium unit, why not put it in there? It's not water resistant, and I think a lot of this has some of these things I'm mentioning here really kind of come down to how you're going to use your radio. But again, premium product. It's I don't know how many weather radios are more expensive than this, but if you're going to be up in the upper tier, why wouldn't you have all those things? And that's definitely the case. I mean, I think you can go look at a few other premium products and see that they have Bluetooth and they have water resistance and, depending on the radio, maybe shortwave, depending on the radio, USB support. So I guess I'm saying if you want to be the premium radio, there shouldn't be a checkbox that's not checked, or very, very few. One of the things that has sort of, got to me on this is I'm trying to figure out who this radio is designed to appeal to. You look at the owner's manual, and CCRadio basically says right there that this is likely the first emergency radio that doesn't look like one. I would agree with that. This, is a handsome little radio that looks like it could be on your bedside table as, your little bedside alarm clock sort of deal. Maybe on your desk, your desk at work. Maybe you work from home, or you have a little den. You could be on your desk there. It would be at home, on a windowsill in the kitchen, above the sink, except it's not water resistant. Be careful. It is definitely an emergency radio that doesn't look like one. But with that, I really do kind of struggle to figure out who is this designed for? What is the target audience for this radio? It seems too nice and too expensive to be in someone's bug out bag or survival kit. I think if I was looking for a radio that I was going to be throwing in a backpack or in a tote or something like that, I could probably buy a less expensive radio that covered most of the basics. And if I was someone who wanted to make sure that I had like an emergency radio, a go bag in the car, and maybe a tote in the house with those emergency supplies, I could probably find a few radios that would cover the basics. That for the price of this, I could go buy 2 or 3 of those and have them stashed in places where I wanted it to be. It seems like it's too nice, and that it's missing some key features to be the ultimate outdoor radio. I mean, it's well built, but it's a very pristine white. You would think big chunky rubber corners and maybe a color that wouldn't show some dirt or smudges on it would be better for an outdoor radio. You would also think that it would have features like maybe water resistance, a real carry strap. I don't have it on here. You can put like a little wrist strap on this, but you would think a real carry strap would be nice if this was meant to be that outdoor radio that you took hiking or camping. And then is it supposed to be a companion radio, or I don't know what else to call it. I'm calling it a companion radio. That type of radio that you have in the house and that you keep along on the bedside table, or maybe you use it as a small little portable that you keep next to your chair in the living room when you want to listen to the radio, or in the kitchen, maybe on a little table that where you have your coffee and toast in the morning. If it's a companion radio, I think it's missing those key features like Bluetooth and USB and micro SD support for the price point. Because as a weather radio or as an emergency radio, I think in a lot of ways the CC Solar Observer covers most of those key features, right? It's solar. It's got the hand crank. It can run on an internal battery, or you can add batteries to it. Same FM weather. It's got really good sound. It's got really good selectivity. You can bring in stations. It's got the flashlight, the same as the Observer. It's discontinued, but it was like a $60 radio, and you can buy other radios that are sort of that form factor for around that $50 price tag. So if you're looking for an emergency radio, is this worth that $100? I'm not completely sure. Is $100 an expensive radio to you to shove in a backpack or a tote and only sort of use when you're in those emergency situations? I think it's too nice of a radio and too expensive of a radio, personally, for that. So I really do kind of feel the best use of this radio is a companion radio, but now the problem is, and you look at the Prunus next to it, which is not an emergency radio at all, but it is a great little companion radio, right? This is a perfect radio to kind of maybe keep on the table if you want to listen to local radio in the morning or a little bit of music. But you can Bluetooth to it if you want to do that. You can you can put a USB drive in it if you want to load it with a selection of your music or a micro SD card. And sound-wise, I think as much on low power that this sounds very similar to this, I think on high audio power it sounds very similar to this. And I'm hoping to, in a second here, throw on some copyright-free music that I'll put on my laptop, use a CCRadio FM transmitter 2 to pull on these radios and give you a little bit of an idea of what they sound like. But I think on high audio power, this sounds very close to this, but this is like a $25 radio. This is right now $89. So there's some of my thoughts. I'm going to put on some music in a second. Some of the other things that I would talk about, just the form factor and the design. One advantage to this over this is with its sort of squat design, you can't tip. I mean, that's solid. You can't tip that. I can knock that over. So that's kind of nice. And I don't know if I'd want to use this. I really do wish they kind of offered this in multiple colors. Maybe if this came in black, or dark green or red or blue, a bunch of fun colors, I would feel that it was a radio that would be, that I would be more willing to sort of use outdoors as a small radio if I went camping or just out in the yard and, was sitting, at a table and, enjoying some outdoor weather and have a little radio next to me. And in those situations, the fact that this is sort of squat like this and won't tip is a plus, because I could see putting this on the picnic table or something and accidentally hitting it and having it fall over. But there's the drawback, right? And somebody's going to say, well, no, that's not really a drawback. The way this is designed, right, I've got to figure out how to hold this. And I really don't want to put my fingers all over the solar panel so I can crank it. And look, I can do it. It's not like it's impossible. But I can tell you, just playing around with this, I have hit my fingers. If you put it down on the table like this, that doesn't work. But if I take this guy, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to show this, but I pull this out, put my hand firmly on top, I can crank that. There's no obstruction there. I can hold this in my lap and crank it. There's no obstruction there. I can put it on the table, and there's no obstruction there. So I kind of think, there's a drawback of the solar. The solar being as squat as it is, and that is, you got to figure out how to kind of awkwardly hold this brick when you crank it. Kind of minor, and honestly, powering this off the crank should be like your last resort option. It's got the internal battery. You can charge that up just by plugging a cable into it, which not an option here. It's got that nice big solar panel, and you can charge it that way. But I think using the crank on this one is a little bit easier. So let me fire up some music and let's hear how these sound. Okay, so in the other room I have my laptop, and it's set up and ready to play some YouTube copyright-free music. I have it hooked up to my CCRadio FM transmitter 2, and if I was smart, I would have had all that right here, so I could have just hit play and go. But I'm going to walk in the other room. I'm going to put on the track, which I believe is Southern California by Riot. It's actually a really nice sounding track. But I'm going to put that on, and then we're going to hear it on this. This is already on and set to the right station. And then we'll do the same thing with the other radios. And it's only a 2-minute track, so let's see if we can squeeze this all in. Hold on. So here we go. Now, I don't think it's a really loud radio. I think it's sort of polite. You can't really get it too loud. That's about as loud as it goes. But there is the high audio mode, or the high power audio. And I'll lower that a bit. And you can hear that really does make quite the difference. Turn that down. We're going to turn this one up. Now I'm going to turn this one down, and we're going to turn this one on. I'm going to put this back up. Now we're listening to this one. There's the low power mode. And that's all the track we have left. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how these radios sound. In my opinion, on low power mode, this sounds very similar to the CC Solar Observer, which I don't think is a knock at all, because I think the CC Solar Observer actually has a really nice sound. It's a very listenable radio. So on low power mode, I think this is a very listenable radio. And of course, you get something like 50 hours of life if you're running this on regular batteries. On the high audio power mode, this suddenly sounds so much better. It's got a great sound. I think very similar to what I think the Prunus J160 sounds like, which I really think has a really great sound, particularly for the size. So, little small sample size there. I do think maybe this isn't quite locked onto the station as well as this is, right? Analog style tuning versus the digital. I personally thought it sounded a little off. I'm not sure if that came over the microphone or not. Final thoughts on the Observer here. Final thoughts on the Solar here is that it is a very nice radio. It sounds good. It's got some great features. I'm still a little confused what the target audience is, and I really think it's probably best as like your home companion radio, not your camping, hiking emergency radio, not your bug out bag, survivability emergency radio. But people may disagree with me. It really is, when you're buying an emergency radio, how are you using it? I've had conversations about this and have been told, hey, I really don't care if my emergency radio has really good sound because it's an emergency radio. I'm not listening to it except in an emergency situation, and then I'm just more concerned about it working. Personally, my point of view is I don't want a radio that's behind glass, in the case of emergency break glass sort of thing. I want a radio that I can use and enjoy, and it's an emergency radio, and if I ever need an emergency, I know where it is, because heck, I just used it yesterday or the day before or something like that. So I really do think it makes a great little companion radio. Really wish it had Bluetooth, which I would think would be a game changer. And of course, they have they are coming out with that Bluetooth model. It's on their website. So check that out if you're interested in this radio. I think the big problem I have with this radio is it enough at $100? And I think the minute you put that price tag to it, you have a lot of options. If you're just looking for a companion radio and you're not so worried about the emergency features, there are tons of options that would fit the bill for a lot less. And heck, you could probably spend enough to buy a nice companion radio, table radio for the house, a small portable for the house, and a decent emergency radio. If you're looking for something that you're going to go camping and hiking with, I think there are lots of other options for under $100 that may fit the bill better, because there are some shortcomings. Like I said, it's not water resistant. I would like it to have a handle like this if you were using it as an outdoor radio. I wish it wasn't white. And if this is the radio that you're throwing in your survivability bag, I kind of wonder, is there a more basic radio for a little bit less money that would do the trick and maybe give you the option to buy a couple of these radios, one to keep in the house, one to keep in the car, or your bug out bag or your tote that you keep, someplace where it'll stay dry. And so I do wonder if the $100, who the audience is for, and if it doesn't fall a little short in those categories. But right now it is on sale for $90, $89. The Bluetooth model is on their page, so if you like this radio, but Bluetooth is sort of a make or break for you, it might be worth taking a look at that. It's a great radio that really has some great features, but I think you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for out of an emergency radio? And for the price, does this check enough of those boxes? I think there are two websites, well, one YouTube channel, one website that I think are really, really worth checking out. The first is go check out on YouTube Radio Waves by Todderbert. Love the site, love his reviews. He reviewed this, and he reviewed this in a much more thorough way than I've done here. If you have an interest in this radio, go check out his review and hear what he has to say about it. I think he also has done some band scan, videos with the radio. So, go check those out. RADIOJAYALLEN, he's got a blog that where he has shared his opinion on this radio. He also thought very highly of it. Absolutely, go check out those sources. I'm going to link them, in the description here when I post this video. But check those two guys out because they do great work. They've said some great things about this radio, and if you're really interested in it, I think it'd be worth getting their thoughts on it. My thoughts, like I said, I think it's a great radio. I think it offers lots of features. I think it might be a really nice radio if you want a small companion radio in the house that also gives you, emergency radio functionality. But depending on what you want out of an emergency radio, I'm not sure this checks all the boxes. So, thanks for listening. Look forward to any comments you have. And until the next time.